I am aware I have a role to play, and I don't look at it as being power when I'm in the speaker's chair. I am there to do a job, and the job is to maintain decorum. That's all I do.
So, Mr. Forde, if you had the opportunity now, given all of your experiences, councillor, member of parliament, deputy speaker, and representing Trinidad to the world, and you can redesign representation in Trinidad and Tobago, where would you begin that change?
Right. So whether it's 1.3 or 1.4 by now, million persons that we have, we always need to ensure that our people are given the first preference. But not everyone can benefit at the same time. My integrity. I remember my mother and father, humble as they may be, always said that the only thing you have, Esmond, is your name, Esmond Forde.
Welcome to The Blueprints, a podcast for leaders, change makers, and visionaries for the future of Trinidad and Tobago, the Caribbean, and the world. I am your host, Dr. Jelani Reed. Today, on this episode, we sit down with a man whose public service has spanned more than 15 years, a former vice president of the Tunapuna Regional Corporation, two-time elected MP and deputy speaker of the House of Representatives. But he is more than titles. He is a man raised by the village, shaped by his faith, and most importantly, driven by purpose. This is the blueprint of Esmond Irving Forde. Welcome, Mr. Forde.
What an introduction.
So, Mr. Forde, from Fairley Street,
Yes.
Tunapuna, as a young man, how did your experience growing up in the community of Tunapuna shape your identity today?
First of all, I'd like to say good day to Trinidad and Tobago and the listening public, and thanks for the opportunity in having me here. Being selected as a leader, right? All glory to God. Fairley Street, Tunapuna. Again, Fairley Street, Tunapuna, it's basically in the heart of Tunapuna, central Tunapuna. Again, the son of a seamstress. My mom was a seamstress, and my father back then, when he had me, was a carpenter, and then he went on to be a building constructor, a building contractor, sorry. Again, humble beginnings, right, I must say, but one thing is that, my family, we never went hungry, right? We were able to afford, and we were able to, it's 5 of us, right? 4 boys and 1 girl, right? I am number 4 on the pecking order.
Oh, like me.
Yeah. Oh, you like it. I'm number 4 on the pecking order, and how to put it? Sometimes it was said that I'm a mommy boy, because I grew up, and she had me doing everything, cleaning the house, helping her in the kitchen, doing a lot of things, going to the market with her, going to the grocery with her. And those things still live with me. I still go to the grocery, I still go to the market, even though I'm deputy speaker or member of parliament, but always Esmond Forde. I will always be Esmond Forde. So the upbringing was good. We had a very good neighborhood. A lot of young men in the neighborhood, so we used to play a lot of football, we used to play a lot of cricket, all in the streets under Miss Eiffel home, which the home is still there, right? But again, things have changed up. There's a mechanic shop under there. And we were able to go to school, come home, and then when you come home, you go back in the yard, as you would say, in order to play. Things have changed a lot. In those days now, the village, the neighbor, anybody seeing you doing anything, they will pull you up. Esmond, don't do that. I'm going to tell your mom. That sort of thing. But I must say Tunapuna has been good to me, hence the reason why I got back into serving. And that's all I've been doing all my life, serving.
So the young man who has always been going to the market is the MP and deputy speaker still going to the market.
Sure.
The young man who used to play football, right? Well, I don't know if you're still playing football.
Well, not quite. I'll still go to the savannah.
Right.
I will either go to Eddie Hart or I'll go to Honeymoon and do some exercise.
Right.
Some jogging, a little exercise, keep fit and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Right. So, and you have also supported a lot of sporting activities
Sure.
in Tunapuna.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, that's interesting. So you have, based on what you're saying, you have not changed who you are. And as a matter of fact, because I remember there's a saying that power exemplifies who you truly are.
Okay.
And you have tasted power.
Well, I remember distinctly when in 2015, when I won the seat resoundingly in Tunapuna, Dr. Rowley called me, and he was asking me, what happened, Esmond? You're not talking with me? I said, what do you mean? I said, why, sir? He said, well, I think by now you realize I did not qualify for the cabinet. And I said, I have no problem. My main aim was to win Tunapuna seat. And then he said, I have a job for you. So I said, okay, what job is that? And in your growing up days, your parent or your teacher will say, they have something for you, you have to wait for it. I had to wait a week in order to know, well, look, and I'm thinking, well, look, what this job would be. Only for him to introduce me to Ms. Jackie Sampson Merez, who was then the clerk of the house. And he said, I want you to make him one of the best deputy speakers out. And I was trained by her and Kiba Jacob Motley. And they said I'm doing a fairly good job, and power. You know what I mean? As far as I am aware, I have a role to play. And I don't look at it as being power when I'm in the speaker's chair. I am there to do a job, and the job is to maintain decorum. And that's all I do. That's all I do. So again, as they say, many people say power has not gone to my head, and I trust God for that. And I take my job seriously.
As a student that is fascinated by governance, there's a saying that every politician who runs for office really and truly has an eye to be prime minister, right? And you have indicated that, in 2015, the prime minister then would have called you and said, well, you haven't qualified for cabinet position, but there's something else. How did you feel as an individual, not getting that opportunity to serve in that capacity?
I remembered back in 2010 when actually we had lost the elections, and the local government elections was called within 3 months after that general election. I remember one morning I got a call from a friend stating that they were looking for a councillor. Screening were completed, but they were not satisfied with the individuals. So somebody mentioned the Forde brothers. Now I have a younger brother who is presently a pastor, right? And they called us. So they said, are you all interested? So I told them one time my brother will not be interested, but I was interested. So again, it was divine, And I went to be interviewed the next morning, because that was a Thursday morning, and then nomination day was the Monday. Yeah, it was that late. And I went in, I was screened by Dr. Rowley and his team, and he said, go out and win the seat. And I was fortunate enough, as one of the only Tunapuna Piaku Regional Corporation councillors, it was 4 of us that would have won a seat outside of a housing development. The one from Arima was because of La Hoqueta, the one from Maloney, and then there was one from Bonnet, which were the 4. And then I was the only one that won within a city, which was Ozenville, Tunapuna. And then I moved on, I did what I had to do, served the people, and 2015 was when I was elevated to be a member of parliament.
So I get the sense that for you, it has always been just that, service. So regardless of the position that one...
Again, it has been said that Tunapuna is the most marginal of all the seats, of the 41 seats, constituents. But to me, I look at it as winning the seat, which is important to ensure that the People's National Movement remains in power. Yes, I was selected as Deputy Speaker, not only once, but twice. Because again, in 2020, I was again elevated to be the Deputy Speaker of the House. And I understand that I am one of 2 persons who was able to do it back to back on 2 occasions, as the Deputy Speaker. So I see it as a crown or as a feather in my cap. But if that is what I am being called to serve as, I am willing to accept. Again, I was supportive of Honorable Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, and I'm also supporting the present Prime Minister, Honorable Stuart Young.
So, Mr. Forde, you didn't have the opportunity, nor were you divinely blessed to go to Queen's Royal College, but you end up going Hillview College.
Let's not go there.
However, what I would like to know is that how did your experience at Hillview College, which is nest in the constituency of Tunapuna, shape your world views?
Right, sure. Right, but before I got to Hillview, I went to one of the best primary schools in Tunapuna, which is, back then it was Tunapuna EC School, which is Tunapuna Good Shepherd Anglican School. Right? We had a saying that if you did not go to Tunapuna EC, you didn't go to school. So I was able to pass for Hillview College. Again, fortunate enough. Again, I used to walk to school, because from where I lived on Fairley Street, Hillview is on El Dorado Road, College Road, which was basically about 10 minutes away.
Correct.
So I used to walk to school. And I must say, Hillview would have shaped me to what I am today, or who I am today. Now, Hillview is predominantly an East Indian school, or let's say a Presbyterian school, because it's governed by the Presbyterian Church. So therefore, the percentage of East Indians are more than Africans and other representatives of Trinidad and Tobago. But I must say, no racialism, no issues when it comes to ethics, creed, race, and class. We were all taught at the same level. We were all given the same opportunity. And I must say, my 5 years of Hillview was what would have brought me to who I am today. I remember distinctly one of my teachers, who was then the vice principal, Mr. Richard Kokram. Again, may he rest in peace. He's now deceased. I remember distinctly, he mentioning to me, actually he wanted me to be a lawyer. He wanted me to be a lawyer because he believed that my voice, I had a very distinct voice, and, he was of the opinion that picture Esmond Forde summing up to the jury and summing up to a judge on a case. He said, "Oh, Esmond, you will always win." So he always used to tell me, make your voice work for you. And my voice today is working for me because, as being the deputy speaker, when I'm in that chamber, Faris Alwari always mentioned to me, he said, "Oh, when you speak in that chamber, it echoes. You have to listen." And again, Hillview would have been good to me for the 5 years. From Hillview College, I went across to St. Augustine Senior Secondary School, the Green Machine.
Yes.
I would have spent 2 years there doing my advanced levels, and then I would have moved on to extramural, in those days, School of Continuing Studies, in order to do some diplomas and some certificates and so on. But Hillview would have molded me, teachers like C.P. Maraj, Mr. Nagina, Mr. Makoum. There was a teacher we used to call Braff, He used to teach us literature and so on. And, they would have always seen it in me. Sometimes in school days, you don't see it in yourself. But they would always say, "Esmond, stop wasting time. Esmond, learn your work. Do what you have to do. Come to school on time," things like that. But, those qualities would have exemplified as you got older, more mature, in order to make you the person you are today.
So, Mr. Forde, what or who did you see in yourself?
Actually, I wanted to be a policeman at one time, right? I wanted to be a policeman. And, we can be frank, right? It's real, because one of the requirements to be a policeman back then, I don't know if it still is that you must not have flat feet. And actually, I had flat feet. So I was not accepted. I reached the stage up to that point. And after not being accepted, I was a little disappointed, because somehow, I don't know, sometimes, your size, you feel, and I felt, I could have made a contribution to the police service, but I was not successful. I then went into PR, marketing, at Neil and Massey for most of my career. I've done marketing and public relations. And I always liked politics. And again, my beautiful wife, Susan Henry Forde, she don't like politics. She don't like politics at all. Right, so
she knows that you're a politician, right?
But yeah, she knows that I'm a politician. So we had this twin and froing. But in 2010, when we lost the election under Honorable Patrick Manning, I put her to sit down, because I realized that there was an opportunity to present myself in Tunapuna. And I explained to her, I gave her the pros and the cons, and she told me, I want one commitment: the slandering, the old talk, the mamagism, the things that goes with politics. She don't like me to be. So when you look back at my speeches, you would realize that I try my best not to go down the road against my opponents. I try to sell Esmond Forde, the brand, and then also the brand of the People's National Movement and the constituency of Tunapuna. I think, and then she understood, and she said, "Okay, honey, go ahead." And then it worked out to be successful, because again, 5 years as a councillor, 2 years as the vice chairman of the Tunapuna Peaco Regional Corporation, and then 10 years as a member of parliament, 10 years as deputy speaker. That's 15 years, And, it's all about service. It's all about ensuring that the People's National Movement remain in power, right? Because, as they said, Tunapuna is a crucial seat. And how I look at it, in 2015, I would have won by over 4,000 votes. In 2020, I won by over 3,000 votes. But again, in 2025, we still started Zero. So here we go again, and I'm confident that, I should bring it home.
So there's something that you have always mentioned. You always speak about the importance of the village, and how has the village raised you and defined and shaped who you are today. Who have been some of the key figures? I know you spoke about Mr. Richards as a vice principal at your school. Who have been some of the key figures in Tunapuna?
All right. Going back to the primary school days, I remember directly next door to us was Inspector Rudolph Leach. Again, may he rest in peace. He died that's about 3 years ago, right? He was a member of, back then, the Commissioner of Police was Randolph Burrows, right? And he was a senior member of the police, so he used to live next to us. So again, there was that discipline. If he see us doing anything wrong, if he hears us using obscene languages or anything like that, he will pull us up. That's one family that I can dedicate it to. His wife was a postmistress. Again, because remember, as I said, my mom was a seamstress and my father was a carpenter. So coming out of that education cycle, Miss Leach and Mr. Leach would have, assisted us. 2 streets up, which is Robert Trace, there was Miss Ruth Springer McLean. The Springers in Tunapuna, when the history of Tunapuna is written, the Springers would be mentioned. So for instance, the Springers, they were mainly principals, teachers, and also like postmistresses in the community. So for example, back then I remember distinctly not having television at home, and we used to go across by Roger McLean, which was my good friend, in order to watch television. So like sometimes on the evening, if we're not pitching or playing football or cricket, we would go across by them on weekends in order to, because they had a nice TV, and we would go and watch television there, as the case may be. The Springers, again, those are some of the people that would have raised us. There are also the Clarks. Again, the Clarks were well known within the Tunapuna community, and they live 4 houses down the road on the other side of Fairley Street, and then they would have again been part of it. Again, your daddy sending you to pay the necessary when you're going to the grocery, you're going to the shop, different things that the kids me. They were, how are you going, Esmond? Afternoon, Miss Clark. Afternoon, Miss Springer. Good afternoon, Miss McLean. And they look out for you, because again, as you were growing up in Tunapuna, it was always important to show that respect. Respect, love, and up to today, it is so embedded in me. I know if I'm passing someone, I say good evening, I say good morning. That respect remains with me, and I try to embed it in my 2 beautiful girls.
Yes,
my 2 daughters. Yeah.
Same at my end. Doesn't
It's
matter.
important.
Yeah,
it's important.
Doesn't matter where you go.
Yeah, it's important.
Now, Mr. Forde, we're going to change it up again, because this is a podcast that speaks about leadership. So we want to discuss leadership. Now, you were not selected initially to be the candidate in 2015, right? And subsequently, you were selected. You would have served 5 years as a councillor and 2 out of those 5 years as vice chairman. But what was interesting is that you have been ranked as one of the best or better performing councillors and representatives. What makes you different to, I guess, your peers?
Wow. That's a tough one, Again, first thing I would say is that being a representative, being a councillor in an area where you were born is a plus. So therefore, Ozenville Tunapuna is actually the area where I was born. So most of the individuals know of the Forde family there, right? So when I went in and I got selected, I was unemployed at that time. So I was an unemployed councillor, which means that my councillor job became my full-time job. So I was able now, on a daily basis, to leave home to do councillor work. So it was important to ensure that that interaction was important. Relationships are my strength. Relationships, meeting people, and networking, that's one of my main strengths. So I was able to now use my councillor knowledge, because we would have gone in, we would have had training sessions. I remember we went to Tobago to do our orientation session with Mr. Ray Braffett. He's a top trainer and facilitator, and you're telling us how to go about councillors, how you show respect, how you try and meet people, how you converse with them, and so on. So I was able to understand the knowledge of what a good councillor will be. So I put that in the back of my head, and then with my relationship, network, and strengths in meeting people, I was able to merge all of that together in order to do a good job. So in the morning I will get up, I will take up my cup of tea, you know what I mean, and I will go out, sometime in a short pants, sometime in a moccasin, and I will go around to all the job sites within the community, meet the workers, forge relationships, sometimes, you know, a little breakfast here, a little doubles there, a lunch as the case may be, and I would get those things done. I was able also to understand that a simple thing. I don't like to use the word gangs, right? I like to say teams, you know, so the regional corporation have these various teams. Mm-hmm. But each work team, a maintenance team, a work crew consists of 10 individuals. You may have 2 masons, 2 carpenters, 2 ladies to carry water and things like that. But most times you will pass on a job site and you may only see 1 man working, 1 mason working, 1 carpenter working. So what I used to do is that if I have a job to do on Fairley Street, I will look for another job close by, another project, so that it's in close proximity, and you will do 2 projects at the time when you're supposed to do 1. So I was able to maximize, you know, the work effort of the guys, maximize the funding that come for development fund in order to result. And it's about meeting people. I may not be able to deliver on everything, but I'm able to be present, forge a relationship, and then forge a network in order to say, okay, Mr. Forde is trying his best to help. Yes, he's taking some time, but we have a relationship as we go along. And that's the key. It's all about forging relationship to ensure that the work gets done. And by doing that, it transferred over to my member of parliament, because sometimes, you know, my member of parliament office sometimes operates as a councillor also, you know what I mean? Because you cannot turn back the person that come from a situation. Correct. You know, so I just try to get it done and to serve the people throughout the years.
So, Mr. Forde, you have had to operate as an individual, just being a councillor, then as member of parliament representing, then you would have gone on to a leadership, even greater leadership position as deputy speaker of the house. So you are leading people. What is some of the non-negotiables that you have in your leadership practice?
Wow. My integrity. Nothing comes between my integrity, right? Being accountable and just ensuring that people understand my leadership style, right? You know, sometimes as a leader, you may not want to delegate, but I cannot do all. So I believe in delegating to get the job done. So if I'm able to delegate, I'm able to deal with something else, right? My integrity. I remember my mother and father, humble as they may be, always said that the only thing you have, Esmond, is your name, Esmond Forde. Because remember, after my political career, my leadership career is ended, I will be Esmond Forde. And I must be able to face the community that would have brought me up, face individuals that I would have met over the tenure of my office, and I must be able to face them. You know, I must not be able to say, gosh, I breaks in, look, Dr. Reed, and I'm afraid to see Dr. Reed. You know what I mean? Your integrity is key. Integrity is key. And in Tunapuna, integrity counts. Integrity counts. Yes, they would like to say, yes, they would like their member of parliament to be a minister, you know, in this ministry or that ministry, but at the end of the day, they are able to understand, because not because you are a minister mean that you're going to get the job done, you know. Because as an MP, my track record can show the amount of things that I was able to do in Tunapuna. I was able to do a lot. Yes, there are some more things that I would like to do. There are not individuals I would like to help. There are more resources I would like to get, right? And again, if it is that ministerial position will bring that, so be it. I will accept it humbly and move on.
Okay. Now, you're a man of faith. Politics, you know, has its ups and downs. It has its trials and tribulations. How does a man like you, who's brother as well as a pastor, how do you stay true to yourself?
It could be a difficult task, in that they say religion and politics don't mix. But in 2010, when I made the decision, again, my wife and I would have prayed about it in order to ensure that, you know, we making the correct move. And we prayed about it. I spoke to my brother about it, right? And we decided, okay, we realized that there was an opening. Tunapuna needed an individual, and I went in to ensure, right? So I try my best to ensure that I do not miss out on my services in between. So in amidst everything, so like up to yesterday, Wednesday, we have a midday service. I would go spend a little 2 hours in the service just to ensure that I remain blessed, I remain covered and sanctified as I hit the road. On Sunday morning, tired as I may be sometime on a Sunday morning, I make sure I get up and go to church. If I don't go to church, I'll call my brother and say, listen, I really can't make it today. I'm tired. I'm not coming out today. The thing about it is that sometimes people may want you to compromise, but again, to compromise your integrity is too difficult. I think it's too much to lose, and I'm very skeptical in that the day that my name is called in some situation, my wife going to say that's the end of it. I know that. I know that for sure. Again, most individuals know my wife will be very selective in some of the functions that she will attend, some of the functions she may go. Like for instance, the main campaign launch, she may come to one of the main meetings in Tunapuna, right? She will go to a couple of functions, but very selective. On the campaign trail, she would not come out, right? She would not come out, right? But she's home praying, ensure that things go well. She's making sure that I eat properly, that I drink properly, I take my vitamins, you know what I mean? That sort of thing. So, like tonight, you know, where do I have to go to after today? I said, well, I have a podcast to do, and they need to get me out, and that sort of thing. So all now I'm probably maybe sitting down watching a little sports, relaxing, because sports is my main thing, and just relaxing, having my cup of tea. She may probably bring a smoothie for me, or something of the sort. You know what I mean? A wonderful woman, wonderful family. At the end of the day, I don't want to chance it. So again, as they say, I do what I have to do. And I think my colleagues know where my stance is, and then a lot of the individuals know where my stance is. So again, they do not put me in that position in order to say that, you know, let's try Esmond. You know, I've never been put in a situation like that. And I try to stay away, and I try to avoid it as a kid. But the day that it comes, I have to be strong and to ensure that, listen, your integrity must last at the end of the day.
So, Mr. Forde, you have hosted and initiated many programs, activities, and initiatives in the constituency of Tunapuna. What initiative most stands out to you that best exemplifies your style of representation?
I choose sports under the Ministry of Sports and Community Development, Minister Shamfa Kojo Lewis. We had it in March, right, where they came to Tunapuna. We chose football and netball as the main sport, but then we had a lot of activities where all the other sporting like boxing, karate, basketball, and then they came just to showcase. And we had a wonderful evening. Actually, it was spearheaded by a young man by the name of Michael Campbell. He coordinated the whole exercise with 2 other colleagues from within the constituency, and we had a magnificent time. The whole constituency came out from Maracas, Akono, straight to Tacarigua and Tunapuna, and when we made an inquiry, the persons who were running the program said it's one of the best programs that they had. People came out, and I just love to see, you know, my people mingling and mixing, because it's all about camaraderie, it's all about relationship, it's all about the love, it's all about relationship. And to know that we had a sporting event and they came out and it was well. Some of the things that I may look at also is, for instance, we had a meeting, a political meeting. Well, I'm a politician, so I need to go there, right? We had a meeting at Exodus, and it was the only thing bigger than that crowd at Exodus is when Exodus were judging on preliminary night. As you know, Exodus are the 2025 Panorama champions, right? So, use a supernova. so who rated Exodus, right? And it was a massive meeting. And a lot of Tunapuna people, the crowd came out. And those are the things that, you need to look at. And you feel good to know that, that you're going out there meeting them on a daily basis. And then when you make a call to come to a meeting, to congregate, they come out, right? There are a lot of things that, again, that can happen. Like, for instance, tomorrow morning, we are turning the sod for a swimming pool at Honeymoon Ground, right? Again, who knows? We may, in Tunapuna, we may have one of the next George Bovell, or probably one of the next Top, or one of those guys, as the case may be. So I'm looking forward to that opening tomorrow, again, in order for that sod turning. And that swimming pool will be up and running, and we'll get persons now to participate in another sporting event, all on behalf of our Tunapuna constituents. Yeah.
So, Mr. Forde, you are a politician, as you said. And there are times where and as a politician, you are part of a political organization that is a part of the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. So you have those expectations. Then you have your expectations from your constituents, and they may be at variance at times.
Yeah,
How do you balance those expectations?
Now, the thing about it is that politics is local, which means that the person who living on Orzenville Road want to ensure that Orzenville Road have lights, have water, road is paved, right? Have easy access to go in and out of Orzenville Road, as the case may be. But then remember, there's somebody living on El Dorado Road also. There's somebody living Green Hill. There's somebody living La Saiva. They have their expectations too. So what needs to happen now is that, so you will take a road or a project or a drainage problem in each of those streets or areas that I mentioned. You will send it to the ministry. The ministry will now then send out their engineers. So it may be 7 projects, but all 7 projects cannot be done. So now you have to prioritize. Which one should I put? So I would look at the one that is to the most extreme, the one that may, sometimes you don't want to say a greater impact. Because I remembered when I became a councillor, one of the first roads that I paved in Tunapuna was a lane called Hodge Lane. Hodge Lane have 7 houses on it. 7 houses, but it was one of the worst roads. So Hodge Road got drainage, they got pavement, they got the road sign, everything as the case may be. And, people say, but Mr. Forde, you have 7 houses on that lane. But I don't see it that way. It's a road that needed to be done. Now, as an MP, you may say that MPs are responsible for the primary roads. Primary roads are the Churchill Roosevelt Highway, which runs through there, the Priority Bus Route, and the Eastern Main Road. But the person on Balthazar Street don't want to hear that. They want their road paved. So now you have to create a balance in order to get it done. So what I try to do is to look at the road that may be a big ticket item, rather than, you send a small road in order to be paved, but then again, you try to ensure the mix based on, the condition of the road. And it's a difficult task because you have to create a balance, because you want your road fixed. I want my road fixed, as well as the constituent, right, at Sesame Street, one their drainage also seen about. So you have to create that balance now, and you prioritize, and you get it into the program, and then you work with the Tunapuna Peak Regional Corporation to get a balance so that the councils could assist in also getting some funding.
So, Mr. Forde, you have had the opportunity to represent us at international conferences, going to and attending other parliaments. Those experiences, what have it taught you most about the strengths of our country, of Trinidad and Tobago?
Right. As the Deputy Speaker, one of the main functions that I have to carry out is that I'm the representative or the head of the delegation that goes to the African, Caribbean, and Pacific countries along with the European Union. So it's the ACP EU. We have these GPAs, which is usually about 4 per year, and it's held on a rotational basis. So sometimes you go to Africa, sometimes you go to the Pacific, sometimes you will go to Europe. So I've been fortunate to visit a couple African countries. I was able to go to 2 Pacific countries and a couple European countries also. But at these meetings, what they do is that they deal with climate change, they deal with agriculture, they deal with terrorism, border protection. So what the EU provides is funding to these African, Caribbean, and Pacific nations. So therefore, for instance, if you have a climate change problem, right, the Ministry of Planning, right, and Development will do a proposal, a planning, and send up the proposal, and they will then provide funding to assist us. Likewise with climate change, likewise with border protection. So therefore, I'll be briefed, I'll get the necessary brief from the various ministers, and then I will be representing us at these various meetings. And Trinidad is well known out there. Trinidad and Tobago is on the map for a long time. And surprisingly, I remember on one of either the first or the second stint I went on in 2016, I remember coming across some delegates who knew A&R Robinson. Yeah. Who knew, and they remember him with the whole criminal court and the criminal justice situation, and they remember him and they say he was a good man and this and that and so on. And so Trinidad and Tobago is on the map. They know of Otto Bolden, they know of the cricketers Brian Lara and so on. And We are listened to. I remember many times I would have to prepare speeches that I would get from the various embassies in order to read and so on. And we have left a mark, right? We have left a mark, and we will continue to leave a mark, whether how things go.
Yes.
Right? Whether, but I am always positive that yes, Trinidad and Tobago is on the map and will continue to make good representation throughout the world.
So, Mr. Forde, if you had the opportunity now, given all of your experiences, councillor, member of parliament, deputy speaker, and representing Trinidad to the world, and you can redesign representation or representative politics in Trinidad and Tobago, where would you begin that change?
Where would I begin that change? I think, you see, the people, right? The people of Trinidad and Tobago are the main asset, as you would say. It's the human resources, right? So whether it's 1.3 or 1.4 by now, million persons that we have, we always need to ensure that our people are given the first preference. But not everyone can benefit at the same time. Because remember, you have the elderlies, you have the senior citizens, you have the middle class, right? Then you have the youth, right? So you need to ensure now where does that balance come from. We always talk about during COVID, for example, not a public servant was sent home. That's the people. You want to ensure that the people is always in right standing. Not a pensioner was not paid. Again, you see, students will ensure that they get their book grants. They will ensure that they receive their food supplies and so on. And the people, I think, is one of the most important assets. And I always believe that the people are the key to our country. Yes, we know that not all can be pleased in terms of the various unions, in terms of the individuals who used to work with the refinery. But again, the government of the day have to create the balance to ensure that they know how the pie can be divided. So it's the whole pie, and you need to divide it up. Who's going to get what? The pensioners, the students, the children, the working class, the public servants. How are we going to work it out? And then each individual now looking to try to see in terms of employment. That's the next big issue. So I would say once the people are put in an arrangement where they are satisfied, again, Trinidad and Tobago will be a better place.
Mm. So we're going to move on to a segment which I like called Rapid Blue.
Rapid Blue.
Rapid Blue. And what it is that I'm going to ask you some questions, and the first answer that pops into your head, that's what we want to hear. So tell me when you're ready.
Take a sip on that. Rapid Blue.
All right.
No prompting by the audience.
No prompting. All right, so let's go. So most underrated leadership quality.
Most underrated?
Yeah, leadership quality.
Being democratic.
Okay.
Being democratic. It's government for the people, of the people. So I would say being democratic.
Nice. Daily habits you swear by that you must do everything.
How I get ready to leave the house.
And how is that?
How is that? Because my wife always reminds me of it. I will get up, basically go to the bathroom, right? And then we get the prayers and everything out of the way. So I'm talking about after I bathe, how I do everything, right? So I will bathe, I will put on my deodorant, dry my skin, put on my deodorant, put on my underjersey, put on my underwear, right? Put on my socks, my pants, my shoe, right? Shirt, tie, distinctly every day as a rule. My wife says, Esmond, you are clockwork. Not a day pass. It's regimental. It's regimental. You know what I mean? I go to my face and sees about my eyebrows, brush my hair. You know what I mean? Yeah.
The whole works.
It's regimental, the whole works, yeah.
A moment in Parliament that reminds you why you started. So something that would have happened and you say, yes, this is why I'm involved in politics.
No, the thing about it is that whatever I do, right, I do it. Sometimes people may say to 100% or 150%. I do it to the best of my ability, right? The Honorable Prime Minister back then saw it fit to give me the Deputy Speaker role. So as one of the functions of the Deputy Speaker is to be the Speaker in the chair when the Speaker is out, whether on vacation or whether we rotate accordingly. And the quorum is key, right? So you could be, as they say, between a rock and a hard place, because you have to remember you have government, you have opposition. So whatever stands for the opposition have to stand for government. And I remember, there was an occasion, I wouldn't call the name, where I had to make a decision to put a government minister out of the house. Yeah, and I had to do it because it was my job, right? It's my job to ensure that the quorum is maintained, and at the end of the day, if I don't do it, the media will be behind me, the opposition will be behind me, as well as the government. So I had to do it, and I remember, Dr. Rowley mentioned to me, Esmond, you got to do what you got to do. You know what I mean? And it was a tough one, but I had to do it because it's about being objective, it's about being fair to both sides. And again, over the 10 years, I would leave it up to the people to make the judge whether I was a good deputy speaker or whether I was not a good deputy speaker. Yeah.
What is one thing that Tunapuna is getting right?
One thing Tunapuna is getting right. We had good representation over the years, right, from the People's National Movement, right, over the years. And presently, this will be a third term, right, that I am being selected for. And on April 28th, again, my whole effort is to ensure that the people mandate will be carried out. Again, not being able to please everyone, but in order to ensure that the representation goes across the board, from Maracas to Tacarigua, from Orzenville to St. John, from Cora to El Dorado, we can serve all the persons. Not everyone will be able to benefit, but in some tangible way. Someone will be able to get their street light repaired, someone will be able to get their project done, someone will be able to get a food card, someone will be able to get a self-help grant, a wheelchair, because those are the things to ensure that the representation is across the board. It's not only about the roads and the drains, it's about the social aspect, which is important. And that's my whole aim. That's my whole aim, that's my whole effort in order to provide that service throughout.
Mr. Forde, what inspires you now? Either politically, personally, what is that thing that keeps you going?
My family, right? I will say my family, my wife. I have 2 daughters, right? And proud of them, right? They are. It is said that I'm the only man in the house, I'm proud of them, and the God that I serve, right? It's key, right? Because He has been able to, wake me up this morning. He who keeps me alive. He who ensures that when I go out there, I'm able to walk, meet people, not get sick, not be in any accidents or incidents, as the case may be. It could be tough at times because, again, we are all humans, right? Matters may happen at home. There may be little differences, but again, it's how you deal with it and how you recollect and come again, right? So that therefore, as it said, you don't let the sun go down on your rat, so before the evening you had a little quarrel, you need to quell it out, and you try your best to ensure that it happens. Being a family man is important because, again, it provides you to go the other day, and then again, serving your God to ensure that you have the life, the health, and strength. Yesterday, a constituent sent a note to me in that health and time are the 2 most important things, because if you have health, it gives you more time. And it was such an amazing, thought, so that's about it.
You see that young man who Mr. Richards spoke about?
No, Mr. Kukaram. Richard Kukaram. Richard is
Mr. Richard Kukaram spoke about. If you could go back in time, you present Esmond Forde, go and speak to that young man, what piece of advice would you give him?
No, as I told you, he was my vice principal at the time. And I would tell him I am grateful.
Not Mr. Richard, young Esmond.
Oh, what I would have told young Esmond.
What you would tell young Esmond.
Okay, what I would tell young Esmond? I would tell young Esmond that, listen, you can make it. You just have to put the effort. Stop wasting time. Because, there's a time in school, we all went to school, there's a time in school which part, you waste a lot of time, you play, you have fun, you the clown of the class or whatever the case may be, I'm not afraid to say those things, right? Because, again, I could relive my school days. And what I would let Esmond know is that, listen, if you can only spend the extra effort, you would have been able probably now to be better. But then again, I think I have been able to reach one of the highest offices in the land, amidst all the things that would have went there. So probably I may tell Esmond, live over the same life. No, if you understand what I'm saying, because I could have been a lawyer, I could have been a doctor, no malice meant to you, to the position, but then I could have also been a policeman that I wanted to be. I'd liked football, but I wasn't that talented to play the game, so what I went into was the administration. And that's a part of life that a lot of people don't know, because I used to manage big clubs in Trinidad, Caledonia, AIA, House of Dread, football team, and so on. I used to be operations manager for those teams. Those were professional clubs, right? So I will probably tell Esmond that, listen, you can probably relive the moment and you did not waste time. You did not waste time, because at the end of the day, I would consider myself, again, whether the people see it as being successful or not, but I held a high position, right? Member of Parliament, Deputy Speaker, Vice Chairman of the Corporation Council. Those are positions which part you would have influenced and assisted thousands of persons. Thousands of persons' lives you would have touched. A simple thing as a book grant, school books, a wheelchair, a walking stick. People may see those things simple, but I see those things as a big pride to me, to know that I could assist somebody in getting from point A to point B with a walking stick. But I would probably tell Esmond, do the same thing.
So, listeners of the Blueprint, there you had it. The man that was raised by the village of Tunapuna, that is now representing his community in the halls of Parliament. And for us at the Blueprint, we would have learned where representation is concerned as an individual, it's all about the people.
Yeah.
The people, the people. Stay grounded. Talk to your neighbor, talk to your friend, talk to your family members, and remain connected. And when we do that, we become more effective in whatever it is that we have to do as individuals. So, that was the blueprint of Esmond Irving Forde. Yeah. And Mr. Forde, if anyone wants to get in contact with you, how do they do that?
Okay. Again, my mobile number, 759-9592. Again, feel free to WhatsApp me, because that's the main form of communication. Again, if I don't answer you via the phone call, I will get back to you via WhatsApp. Again, email EFORDE, which is eford.onboard, onboard@gmail.com. And again, my constituency office is presently situated at, I'm not an MP right now, right? So via email, via WhatsApp for now. Stay tuned.
So leadership is not about positions, it's about getting the job done and representing people. So that was our episode of the Blueprint Podcast. And as you know, email us at the Blueprint Podcast 2025@gmail.com, where you can nominate our next guest. Stay tuned and continue your blueprint. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Excellent. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Excellent.